Ready to go? Well, we want to. Is this on? Yeah. I don't think so. Welcome everybody to our council meeting here tonight. We got some real pleasant news to share with you all. We have representatives here from Polk County and also from Prairie Meadows. We got Angela and John and Gary Palmer and Julie Stewart, and we're going to start off with a great presentation, and I know we're all going to enjoy it, and I hope you do too. So would you want to come up here? Here, somebody will...
Sure, thanks. You know, this is a partnership that we created, I forget how many years ago now. It's been quite a while.
Probably 7, 8.
That's what I'm thinking, 7, 8, where we share our profits with the city, and the county shares it with the city. And this year, it's almost $6 million. And you know, it goes to show, you know, most of us have lived in Polk County all our lives, and what a great place to live. And it goes to show years ago in the 80s when we all put Prairie Meadows together, when we had the private and public partnership of the county and Prairie Meadows working together, it's worked so well. We've given back now over $1 billion since 1996 back to our community. We still get along great together, and once in a while there's a hiccup, but not for very long, because the workmanship and the results of what we've done are so great. We have about 1,300 employees at Prairie Meadows. They're all union. It's a union shop. And all the union people work for the county. I mean, it's a wonderful, wonderful deal. So we're glad to be here today, and we're glad to be the partners with the city of Des Moines on such a great project. Thank you so much.
I just want to say I echo Gary's comments, but working with the city is really a pleasure, and it's great to partner with them on many projects. I know later on you have a proclamation that someone's going to read on Polk County Housing Trust Fund. We contribute, and that's all Prairie Meadows dollars. We do that $1 million every year, and that's coming out of the Prairie Meadows funds. It has in the past. Now we bond for it, but it's always previously come out of Prairie Meadows dollars. Tomorrow we break ground on a Beaverdale streetscape, which is a long time coming. Coleman's sitting in the audience here. That's Prairie Meadows dollars. You can look anywhere in Polk County and really in central Iowa in the region, and you can see millions and millions of dollars that have contributed to a lot of revenue, thankfully, through Prairie Meadows. So this is just one item, this $6 million, almost $6 million through Polk County revenue, and we're thankful that we're partners. And tonight we're partners with the City of Des Moines. So thank you, Prairie Meadows, and thank you, City of Des Moines.
Did you want
Checks in the mail.
Hey, can I pull the mic away?
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
This is always an enjoyable annual event. We never have turned this down, and we never will. And it wasn't for them, our streets would be in a lot worse condition than what they are today, because we use a majority of it to street repairs and construction. So thanks to Prairie Meadows and Polk County. Arbor Day is Polk County. Thousand right here. Okay, we have a couple proclamations that we want to present, and is David John here? There he is. I thought I saw him earlier.
We have lots more representatives too.
You bet, yeah. All your, are all these in the floating T-shirts here?
Let me help
Part of
out.
yours?
David Yon, Municipal Arborist. Let me invite up all our forestry representatives. Also, Tree Des Moines is here with us. So come on up, CJ. And if there's anybody here representing Trees Forever, by all means come forward. And my esteemed director, Pat Kozitsa, who's a great supporter of our trees.
Okay, we have a proclamation which I'd like to read here. It's Des Moines strives to maintain a healthy, natural environment for its citizens and guests, and the urban forest excuse me, is one of the Des Moines' most valuable natural resources that increases property values, decreases energy costs, improves air and water quality, reduces stormwater runoff, and decreases soil erosion. And whereas the urban forest reduces noise levels, creates wildlife habitat, increases recreational opportunities, improves health and well-being, increases community pride, and helps make our community a more pleasant place to live and work. And whereas the protection and preservation of our urban forests for the benefit of citizenry today and future generations depends on the City of Des Moines, and whereas Des Moines has been recognized as a Tree City USA by the National Arbor Day Foundation and desires to continue our restoration and management programs toward ensuing the future of our urban forest trees. Now therefore, Mayor Frank County, on behalf of the City Council and the citizens of Des Moines, do hereby proclaim Friday, April 25th, 2014 as Arbor Day, and urge the citizens of Des Moines to recognize Arbor Day and to support efforts to plant, maintain, and celebrate our urban forest. In witness hereof, Frank County sets his hand and causes the seal of the City of Des Moines, Iowa, to be affixed this 21st day of April, 2014. And want to congratulations our forester here. Things going in the right direction. Sure, please do.
And then on behalf of the Arbor Day Foundation, they wanted to present the City of Des Moines with this Growth Award. You would take that, sir. Tree City USA Growth Award. We are 22 years as a Tree City USA and 15 years having received the Growth Award, meaning we're doing more and more with every one of those 15 years. And so thank you very much.
Thank you for all your efforts and congratulations on what we've been able to attain.
Thank you. And annually, we like to present our mayor with a Tree City USA hat and a lapel pin, which he's always faithful to wear.
Yes, good to him.
All righty. And then we'd like to do a little photo out here. So.
Yeah.
Okay, a small crowd here. Let's do this out of the way. Sorry, guys.
High, 22 years. High, 22 years.
We don't say cheese, we say tree.
We have a representative here from affordable housing. Good, please come forward.
Michael? I'm on the board, so I can speak. No, I think,
He's our director.
yeah, we're trying to do this in all the communities within the metro area, so.
Okay, very good. Okay, so we have a proclamation here for the housing trust and Polk County Housing Trust, to make sure we get the right information here. So let us read this proclamation. Whereas access to safe, stable, and affordable housing throughout Polk County impacts the lives of individuals and the economic vitality of our community. And whereas Polk County Housing Trust Fund is working closely with organizations who build, develop, and support affordable housing initiatives. And whereas everyone benefits with affordable housing, the people who reside in these properties, their neighbors, businesses, employers, and community as a whole. And whereas calling attention to the needs and benefits of the affordable housing is paramount to the growth of our community. Now therefore, Rankin County, on behalf of the City Council and the citizens of Des Moines, do hereby proclaim the week of April 21st to 26th, 2014 as Affordable Housing Week. In witness whereof, I have Frank has presented his hand and caused the seal of the City of Des Moines, Iowa to be affixed this 21st day of April 2014. And Christine serves on the board, and we have a representative here, Josh, from the Housing Trust. So I want to congratulate them and issue this proclamation, which is for you to share with your board. Yeah.
I might just add, yeah, if Josh would like to go through, there are a number of events going on this week on regarding affordable housing. I think Thursday we've got some events, and then Friday we've got a tour that'll take anybody that's interested, and if they're still open.
Yes, there are.
Okay, so you might just give the detail of that.
So as part of Affordable Housing Week this year, we're doing a series of events. Tomorrow morning, we're reaching out to our community's landlords to educate them about renting to low-income households. On Thursday, we'll be co-sponsoring the Business Records Commercial Real Estate Trends and Issues Forum. That's at the West Des Moines Sheraton, along with the Tomorrow Plan. And afterwards, we'll be having an educational session from 9 to noon at the same place. Debbie Durham from the Iowa Economic Development Authority, as well as Dr. Jane Rongery from Iowa State, will be presenting about affordable housing and its role in workforce development. And Friday morning at 9 at our offices over on 3rd Street, we'll be hosting a bus tour that will take us around the east side of the city of Des Moines here, showing off the wide variety of affordable housing options we have in our community. So hope to see you at some of our events this week. Thank you.
Thank you. Sounds like it's going to be a busy week, and congratulations on all your efforts. And get a picture. Just a few minutes, and then we'll start our agenda. We'll go through our agenda and share with you. You share with us your thoughts.
here sheet. I don't need to pull off some of these. So you can scratch.
You okay? You still want?
Hey Frank, we answered your question.
I see, thank you. All right, we ready? I want to welcome everybody to the Municipal Housing Agency Governing Board meeting for April 21st. I would like the clerk to take roll, please.
County,
Here.
Coleman,
Here.
Moore,
Here.
Gray,
Here.
Mahaffey. Here. Hensley.
Here.
Gatto.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Item 2 on our board meeting agenda is authorizing negotiations and approving conveyance of the Des Moines Municipal Housing Agency to the Greater Des Moines Habitat for Humanity, Inc. for disposition sale of 1404 10th Street. So this is the conveyance of that property by the Des Moines Municipal Housing Agency to Greater Des Moines Habitat. Is there anyone here to speak on that? That's Board Communication Number 14-169.
I'll move it.
All right, item's been moved. Any discussion by the board? Hearing none. Can we do a voice vote? All in favor?
You can for the board.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item passes unanimously. Let it so be recorded. Item 3, could we have a motion to adjourn, please?
Move.
Been moved. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We sit adjourned as the housing agency. We've made our special presentations and proclamations. Is that right, Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes, we have. We had a good time doing that, and we really are appreciative of the check that we received.
Fabulous. Prior to the start of our meeting today, our city council meeting, we're going to have a quick message from our own council member, Skip Moore. Those who would like to participate with us, we'd ask you to stand at this time, please.
Oh, you can stay sitting.
All right?
All right.
Mr. Moore says we can all stay seated.
Thank you.
Thank you.
In honor of the fact that it's Arbor Day and Arbor Day week, I found a small speech by somebody that I found is very prophetic. It is well that you should celebrate Arbor Day thoughtfully, for within your lifetime the nation's need of trees will become serious. We of an older generation can get along with what we have, though with growing hardship. But in your full manhood and womanhood, you will want what nature once so bountifully supplied and man so thoughtlessly destroyed. And because of that, you will reproach us, not for what we have used, but for what we have wasted. This was an Arbor Day message by President Theodore Roosevelt in 1907. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. I'll ask the clerk, please, we'll call the meeting to order, and ask clerk to take roll, please.
County,
Here.
Coleman,
Here.
Moore, Gray, Mahaffey, Hensley. Here. Gatto.
Here.
We have a quorum.
All right, item 2 is approving the agenda as presented and/or as amended.
Move.
Anybody in the audience or council members have any items? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Next item on our agenda is approving the consent agenda tonight. Those are items 3 through 49. These are routine items and are enacted as one roll call vote unless either a member of the audience or a member of the council asks for one or more of these items to be pulled for further clarification or discussion. Again, those are items 3 through 49 tonight. And item 4E, Councilmember Gray has registered a conflict. Item 4G and 4H, Councilmember Gatto has abstained also with a conflict. Item 4X, Councilmember Coleman votes no. Item 24, Councilmember Gray wishes to speak. Item 33, Councilmember Hensley wishes to speak. Item 40, Councilmember Coleman wishes to speak. And item 43, Councilmember Gray wishes to speak. Are there any other items that anyone in the audience would like to have pulled for further discussion or clarification? Could we have a motion for the balance?
Move.
Okay, it's been moved, and we'll ask you all to vote.
Seven yes.
All right, that takes us
I just want to ask the term for what?
to item 24.
Yeah.
Item 24 is on a request from Eric Peterson, owner DBA as DAD LLC, for an amendment to the Sawyer's Landing PUD conceptual plan on 4820 Sawyer's Drive to allow necessary use of the single-family dwelling property for a home occupation business consisting of bicycle rental. And that is setting a date of hearing for May 5th of 14. Mr. Coleman.
Mr.
Mr. Gray, I'm sorry.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't know if the applicant is here. I did talk to the neighborhood group, and they're good with the concept. They thought it was a good thing for the neighborhood. The only issue came up was parking, and staff reviewed this. The driveway was adequate enough, but we just wanted to make sure that they're not using off-street parking, or using off-street and not using the street for parking. So if the applicant isn't here, I just want to make sure that parking is not going to be an issue in this neighborhood. It's one of our newest over there in Ward 1, so applicant here?
Well, no, it's going to be, we're setting a date of hearing.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So we'll give everybody heads up and make sure that's addressed on the hearing night. Other than that, you would like to?
Move.
Move. Item's been moved.
Don't worry about it. I did that a couple times myself.
Seven yes.
Item 33 is approving home investment partnerships agreement with Stewart Park Townhomes LLLP for the rehabilitation of Stewart Park Townhomes development at 1428 Capitol Avenue. Council Communication number 14-175. Councilmember Hensley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is actually in Joe Gatto's area, but questions, I now understand why they're not using enterprise zone tax credits. My question would be on the home funds and what are actually the terms of the home fund. It's a loan, it's not a grant, which is good. So we probably don't have that information here, but if we could get that information so that we know what all their sources and uses of funds are and what the terms of the home fund is.
Would you like to have that before the vote, and would you like to continue this until you get that information?
No, I'm comfortable. I know that they're on a timeline, but if we could have that information so that.
Yeah, Mrs. Hensley, council members, we'd be happy to get it for you, and it should be available quickly. So assuming that's true, we'll get it to you tomorrow.
I would just make a statement. The good news here is that the reason they don't qualify for enterprise zones, the way I understand it, is because there's been so much positive improvement in that area on past projects. So they can't qualify under slum and blight anymore, so I think that's good. So I'll move that item with the follow-up that we get the information.
Mr. Coleman.
Sorry.
7 yes?
Would you tell your assistant down there to kind of keep, heads up?
I just
keep
elbowed him
going
and
past
said, that's
you.
your
All
fault.
right.
Hey, Mayor, while you took a break, can I just introduce you to
Yes,
Dominic?
please.
Dominic Munoz is Dominic Bedell is a friend of our family's. His dad is a Des Moines guy, graduated from high school here in 1968, we think. But he's a very proud Des Moines citizen. He was one of those, a lot of people fled Cuba in the early 1960s. His dad was put on a raft and landed at a refugee camp and was adopted by a family here in Des Moines and at age 14, and he now raises his family in Miami. So his son my dad's godson, came to spend the week in Des Moines where his dad grew up. So glad to have you here, and thanks for coming down to City Hall.
All right.
Keep him in line.
Now, Mr. Coleman, for the item which you have pulled to speak, the agreement with the Des Moines Independent Community School District for shared use of park and recreational facilities, Council Communication number 14-179.
I pull this off and I'll move it. This is an extension, a new agreement that we have with the Des Moines Public Schools. I think it's always fascinating that sometimes the public overlooks the great ways that our different jurisdictions work together. This is one where our citizens are paying taxes to the school district and the city, and we're using jointly each other's facilities through an official agreement, and tonight we act on it. I think it's fantastic. It saves both entities a lot of money, which means it saves our citizens money, and I'm happy that we continue to do this, and want to thank the Des Moines School District Administration and Board. And just a quick question, maybe mainly for you, Jeff. This agreement erases all previous agreements that we've had and starts a new one.
That I don't know, I'd have to check. If it's written that way, obviously it would.
I think it does.
For this purpose.
Yeah. I think the last one expires at the end of April, and this is a new one.
For this purpose, that's probably a fair statement, yes, sir.
Thank you. I'll move 40.
Mr. Coleman, would you have your assistant press the button, please?
You're having trouble tonight.
I am.
7 yes.
Item 43, an application from Drake Relays Group requesting approval to temporarily place banners across the street on Grand Avenue between 12th and 13th Street for the Grand Blue Mile on April 22nd, 2014 for the start and finish lines. Councilmember Gray.
Yes, I'm going to move this, but I just wanted to highlight this. This whole week is a lot of energy and a lot of excitement in the Drake neighborhood. We're going to have the America's Classic, probably the greatest track and field events that take place in our nation. We have the greatest high school athletes, the greatest college athletes, all competing. We're going to see some great times. There's a lot of energy down there. I'm inviting everybody to come on down, check out all the action, and I would have been down there myself, but when I ran track, they used to bring out a calendar instead of a stopwatch. So, long time I just had to sit by the sidelines and watch. But it is a great venue. Everybody should have the opportunity to come on down there and watch the greatest athletes perform. So, I'd like to move 43.
Bill, you could be a triathlete. You were a swimmer too, right?
That's right.
Yeah, all right, here we go.
That's a second calendar.
7 yes.
All right, that completes the consent agenda. Takes us quickly to item 50. Item 50 is ordinance first consideration amending Chapter 46 of the Municipal Code regarding securing of fire damaged premises after a fire event. Council Communication number 14-176. A is a final consideration. The ordinance above the waiver is requested by the fire chief and requires 6 votes. Mr. Manager, would you like to make a quick comment on this one?
Well, I will do my best, Mr. Mayor. If I don't get it right, Chief DeKipp, please correct. But this essentially is a recommendation that it gives our inspectors a chance to move on fire-damaged property when it's urgent to do so more quickly than would otherwise be the case. I think there's now a 48-hour waiting period, and with this change, they would be able to move more quickly when there's need and there's been a fire damage. I should just add parenthetically, this has nothing to do with the Yonkers fire, but it is coming forward because of the need to make the process a bit more expedited in those situations. If that's not accurate, come on down and correct it. Chief gives me the okay sign, so.
Thumbs up. Well, and I will mention that there has been, some conversation about do we look at all of our codes regarding fire and how we handle those, and so here's further evidence that we're constantly reviewing those, and want to thank the chief and all of his people for the work that they've done. So thank you, and if somebody would move this.
Move.
Seven yes.
That would be 50 and 50A, right, Mr.?
Yes, 50 and 50A.
All right. 51, from James Andrew of 1407 Linden Lane, Des Moines, to speak regarding the city budget. Is Mr. Andrew in the audience?
Item 51. Thank you.
James Andrew, 1407 Linden Lane, of course, Des Moines, Iowa. If we could take just a moment, it's difficult for me to gather a lot of thoughts regarding things that have transpired over the last 15 years regarding city budgets and revenues. To ask our Father in heaven to, and our Holy Spirit and our Lord Jesus Christ to help us
Andrew, I appreciate
to
your
discuss
personal position.
thoughtfully, how
We
discuss.
don't run a prayer service here.
It's not a prayer service.
I understand.
I'm just asking for his blessings that we're going to consider what we've done over the last 10, 15 years regarding budgets, and that we discuss these things in a thoughtful, caring, and
Thank you, sir.
intelligent manner. And I hope that isn't a prayer service. Is it okay that I go ahead and continue?
Absolutely.
Thank you. There was, and somebody here, I'm sure the mayor has been here, the city manager, Ms. Hensley, have been here for a number of years, and know some years ago there was an effort to increase the local sales tax to 7% so that we could raise revenues. And in the meantime, property taxes were reduced, and there's been a number of problems, I guess, that the city has had in raising revenue to pay for various items, street maintenance, snow removal, anything that's on that budget. And I tried as best I could to look at the budget. And I guess before I go on, because this is an issue that involves all of the residents of Des Moines, all of our visitors, all of the people that come to the city of Des Moines as the state capital, and the international events discussed about the Drake relays and so on and so forth, that we are a city that needs to be able to take care of the services that are provided to the people that live here and the people that visit here. And when I looked over the budget, I had a difficulty understanding the budget. I know that the people that I've worked for over the years have departments, and departments have their items that they need to budget for, and so on and so forth, and then it's lumped all together. And because this is a lengthy discussion and it involves so many people, I would ask the council to extend me more than 5 minutes to discuss this issue.
If you could give us a Cliff Notes version, we can review your notes, we'd appreciate it, because we've got a lot of items on
I
this
understand.
evening. So
would it be something that the
we'd
council
like
would
you-
consider an extension of more than 5 minutes to discuss this?
So let's go 5 minutes and let's see where you are.
Okay, thank you. The things that I was able to pull out from the city council budget that I guess had to be passed before, is it March 15th?
That's correct.
For it to be a fiscal. And there was a need to push through an item with a ballot that was set sometime prior to that, so that there could be fees approved for, was 40?
Franchise fee.
About 40 cents.
Franchise fee, $40+ million settlement, and that had to be pushed through quickly. And I understand that. If you want it on the 14-15 budget, you have to make it happen before the 15th. I understand that. Planning could have been done differently in hindsight, so that more people would have attended or gone to the ballots and said yes or no. The threat of property tax increases, and as soon as, I don't know if this was something that the city council put out, if it was just a rumor that was thrown out so that those people that might pay $60,000 or more in property taxes would rush to the polls and say, we don't want that. If we've got folks that are paying a couple bucks in franchise fees each month, no big deal. But what we're looking at is something that needs to be, again, instead of a regressive tax on the poor and the middle class, because of course it takes a larger chunk of their income to pay these franchise fees. If you got somebody that makes $100 a month and they're paying $2.90 a month on their franchise fee, and somebody that makes $1,000 a month and they're paying $2.90 on their franchise fee, then of course the guy that's making $1,000, he's probably paying 0.3 or 0.03% of his income on the tax.
Okay, let me quickly ask council, because you've run over your 5 minutes already, but just to correct one thing, that referendum, sir, was actually discussed at every neighborhood meeting in this city by this whole city council and by staff to try to get people to fully understand what it was. I don't know if you attended any of those meetings, but that particular referendum was about 60% of the people paying back this for the 100% of the people that received the services that were laid out nearly 10 years ago. And so 85% of the voters said that they would rather have a franchise fee than a property tax increase. And quite frankly, that included some of the folks that don't even pay property taxes. They agreed that it was the most fair way to do it. So we appreciate your comment, but I have to ask the council now.
I do have a question about what you just said,
do we want to listen
sir.
to this?
I'm not comfortable giving more time, and the reason being is because, to be, no disrespect intended here, but we've had a number of discussions at the council meeting. We've had public discussions about it. We had a number of workshops at the council discussing budget-related issues, which also included the franchise fee. And you're coming to us after the fact right now. And it's all been approved, so there's really nothing we can do to address your concerns. Now, if you want to sit down and have a one-on-one conversation, I'd be happy to do that, but I think it's not the appropriate venue at this point to have this type of discussion.
Could we go ahead and I'd just like to
Anybody else?
clarify, Mr. Mayor.
Well, hold on one second. All right, you got another, sounds like a minute of.
I'd just like to clarify your 85%. You're talking about was it a total of 8,000 people that voted that?
It was close to 11.
11,000, and 85% of those 11,000 people approved that. Okay, so it might be 8,000 people approved that. Of how many votes are there generally in a presidential election year? 8,000?
It was
10,000?
a normal municipal election.
Right. Municipal election. Okay, presidential election might be.
A little higher in Ward 4.
Might be in the. I'm glad to hear Ward 4 is getting out and taking care of business.
Just a little bit.
That's what needs to happen, Joe. But generally, we're looking at 50,000, 100,000 people vote in this city, this community. I don't know. But 11,000 people doesn't constitute a majority, 85% of the voting population.
I understand, and you're probably one of the 15%, I would think.
And I'd still, again, if we could put a vote across the board of giving me additional 5 minutes, because the things that I'd like to discuss.
All right, let's quickly put it to a vote. All those in favor of giving him any more time at all, please raise your hand.
That's
Okay, thank you very much.
Because it does affect.
We would be more than happy to have a one-on-one conversation with you, and I'm sure this council individually or otherwise would like to do it, but we've got a lot of items and a lot of people sitting in the audience that have things that.
I understand.
That they want to discuss, and we will begin budget hearings again, and we'd like to have you attend some of them. Thank you.
Try to consider renewable energies as a means of reducing the city budget.
I agree, absolutely. I'm with you.
Expenses, especially electrical. If that could be an item that would be pulled out specifically for the budget, fiscal budget,
All right.
You'll follow up with us?
Could we have a vote, please, to receive his
I'll
comments?
move to receive
Yes.
and file the information. Thank you.
All right, I'll give my copy to the clerk, please.
See, that's why they're playing tricks on me.
All right. Can we, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Let's move now to item 56, which is approving a design concept for the Grand Avenue Bridge over the Des Moines River, Council Communication number 14-182.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
are we going to get a presentation?
Just, Mayor, members of council, Jeb Brewer, city engineer, just wanted to give you the latest update on the electronic survey that we took. It closed out after the blue letter deadline, and the blue letter mentioned that we had over 300 respondents at the time. The survey's been closed. We now have, the survey ended up with 400 respondents, which is a pretty good response. Those survey results, 70% of the respondents did own property within the city of Des Moines, and 40% of the respondents used Grand Avenue Bridge more than once a week. Just kind of give you a perspective of the kind of people that responded. This was a self-selected survey. We did ask a number of questions, but I think the one that's germane to the item before you was item 6. Given the city has a limited budget for capital improvements, what level enhancement is appropriate for the new bridge? These are the options that were presented to City Council at the April 7th workshop. Option A, basic bridge with no aesthetics. Option B was basic bridge with minimal aesthetics. Option C is the higher level aesthetics. And option D was the true arch. And we had over 70% select option C. And just as a graphic from the presentation presented to council, this is an artist rendition of what that might look like. So I just want to present that before you consider.
Jeb, could you also just tell us, and so that our listeners can have this sort of in their minds, what is the life expectancy of this new bridge?
100 years. But you would include maintenance during that period.
Right. But generally, we're looking at the next 100 years from, let's say, 2015, 16, something like that, completion to
2150.
2150. So I think it's worth the additional investment for the aesthetics. I mean, and clearly our citizens agree with you. So, thank you.
I'm happy to move this item. I think the process that we've gone through, having public input meetings and doing the survey, and based upon the information that I've received from citizens, there is a high level of support for doing the higher level aesthetics. And I'm just really excited about this and the fact that we'll be able to retain the arch concept. I know we're going to vote on the next item on the Tiger Grant, and it appears that we even have more time to go through and find the additional sources, the revenue sources. One other question I have, though, since we are at, this is approximately $2 million more in cost on this bridge, how will this impact other items in the CIP?
Well, we'll come back in the fall with adjustment to the CIP. Essentially, we recently just got another $1 million towards this bridge. We have a total of $2 million of federal STP towards this bridge. There's already GO funds that are, gaming funds that are allocated to this bridge. So in August, when we find out about the Tiger Grant, we'll then make adjustments to, if we have other offsetting revenue, to see what the impact is to the city budget. But at this point, it's we don't know, because we could get the Tiger Grant, in which case, there could actually be a smaller burden to the city's own funds if we get the Tiger Grant, even with this $2 million aesthetic upgrade, if you want to call it that. I think it's maybe not an upgrade, something that we need to do. But.
Okay, thank you.
Jeb, how did we do this survey?
Again, it's a non-scientific survey, like most of our surveys in public meeting. People come to the meetings, we invite them. We had pretty good press. It was on our website for people to take it. We're usually happy if we can get 100 response, so getting 400 was pretty good. But again, these are just people that want to answer it. It's not like when we do the citizen satisfaction, where you try to do a statistical stratification to make your sample size.
I guess what I'm trying to get at is did we do this electronically?
Yes.
What
people
what are we
could-
doing for our residents that don't have access to the internet?
Well, we did have paper copies, but they would have had to come to the meeting we had a week ago, so that was publicized, but it wasn't, that was only like 25 people. I think you were there, so it wasn't a big turnout.
Thank you.
We have a speaker.
Honorable Mayor and members of the council, C.J. Stevens, 4900 Woodland Avenue. I just have a question about these bridges. Has everything been exhausted or every opportunity been exhausted to maintain and preserve these bridges? The bridges in Europe are over 200 years old, and the same people that built those bridges came to America and used their expertise here on our bridges. So I just want to make sure that everything has been exhausted for repair and of these bridges, because we have 4 of them.
That's right. Jeb, do you want to quickly address that question? Not that we want to get in the back and forth here, but...
Again, on our website, we do have the presentation was given to council, and part of that presentation, when we did the analysis, we looked at the life cycle cost for the bridge. We did look at a repair option where we would try to take the arches and do the repairs necessary to keep them capable of carrying the loads. When we brought that back to present value, it was more expensive to repair than to replace, so our recommendation was based on the life cycle costs. It was a cheaper option to replace them now instead of repairing them.
You're talking about the reverse. It's more expensive to repair than replace.
Yeah, it's more expensive to repair, so it's cheaper at this point. The investment we would have to put in to repair them would be so costly that it's cheaper over the long run to go ahead and replace it.
And that's on the Grand Avenue. Your intention is to repair the other 3?
We haven't done the detailed analysis on the other ones yet. We're in the process of doing that. We suspect that Locust will be similar to Grand Avenue because it's a similar age and similar use. So, in fact, you've noticed we've been out there recently on Locust and doing those tests, the destructive testing, so that we can make that determination on Locust.
Okay. TJ, hopefully that helps answer your
Well, I
question.
just want to know if this is because we haven't had a maintenance schedule, and do we have one going forward, or is this something
Yeah.
that our future generations are going to have to address again?
Maybe, Jeb, we've been over this a few times with you. Maybe you and CJ could talk about this a little bit and go over what we've done. This particular bridge, I think, had a significant rebuild in, 63 or 67?
60s, yeah.
And so, a number of updates since then. So, Jeb, you might go over that, because I think we all have asked similar questions, and I think we should share that. We had a question down here.
More of a statement in response to this. I was going to mention already that while I wish that we could save the current bridges, not only is the cost factor important, but flood control. And I'm quite certain that the council has spent more time on the issues of flood control in our city than any other issue for the last 15 years. And so when you have both the economics of it, the high expense for a limited amount of time, the maintenance cost isn't going to last forever, not anywhere near a 100-year bridge. And then you have the fact that our current bridge is designed in a way where it creates complications in our flooding. We can solve both of those by building a new bridge that respects the character of the old ones with the arch. So I think we can't lose sight of the fact that this is a flood control measure as well, and that has a huge payoff for all the citizens of Des Moines.
Right. You want to do 57, and we'll go back to the hearing. Exactly. Mr. Manager.
Mr. Mayor, council members, I do want to point out with respect to bridge maintenance that the city does have an ongoing bridge inspection program. We've had it for as long as I've been here, and it's done periodically. It is a very good program, and it's one of the reasons you're seeing a lot of bridge repair or replacement going on today. It's as a result of that inspection work that we do. But I want to assure people that are watching this that Your city does a good job with bridge maintenance here, and I think that's really the best way to do it, and actually in the long term, much more cost-effective than just waiting for something really bad to happen. We don't do that.
Six yes, one no.
All right. Let's note that it's 5:05,
I would have known that.
and we will open our hearings at this time. Item 52. Item 52 is on the vacation and conveyance of the remaining segments of the east-west alley right-of-way adjoining 306 East 3rd Street to 201 East Locust LLC for $31,000. Council Communication Number 14-159A is the first consideration of the ordinance above.
There's been a final waiver requested also on that.
Okay. And there is a request for a final waiver. Should we call that a B, or we'll just try to stick that in there?
I'll move. No one's here to speak. I'll move A and B.
Item's been moved. Anyone to speak? Council? All right.
7 yes.
Item 53, on the conveyance of portions of the vacated east-west alley right-of-way between Hickman Road and Francis Avenue from 16th Street to 18th Street, 1P Agretta for $50, and Laverne R. and Maxine L. Anderson, $25. Council Communication Number 14-163. Is there anybody here to speak to this item?
Well, my questions have been answered. I was concerned about getting it blocked in where the city couldn't get it. I'm very comfortable with it, so I'll move 53.
Right, and I think that, Mr. Gray, that's a great point. As we look at all these alleys across the city, we don't want to end up with little pieces of ground, as has been discussed at this table before, that are like landlocked and we have no access to, and the city has the obligation to maintain and keep them up. So apparently that's been reviewed.
7 yes.
Item 54, on the conveyance of permanent easements to the Des Moines Metropolitan Wastewater Reclamation Authority and the Des Moines Waterworks for the WRA New Main Outfall Phase 17, Segments 5 and 6, project in the vicinity of Southeast 2nd and Shaw Street to Southeast 6th Street, north of Vale Street. Is there anybody in the audience to speak on this? A conveyance permanent easement to the...
I'll move 54.
All right. Seeing no one? Council?
7 yes.
Item 55, items regarding the certificate of public convenience and necessity to operate limousine services, Council Communication Number 14-178. A is the first consideration of the ordinance amending Chapter 126 of the Municipal Code regarding a probationary certificate. B is a final consideration of an ordinance above. The waivers requested by the legal department requires 6 votes. And C is a hearing on an application of MPI Limo Services LLC, Brad Johnson, Urbandale, Iowa, continued from April 7, 2014 council meeting. Mr. Attorney, would you like to make comment on 55A and B?
Thank you, Your Honor. This is an ordinance that creates a probationary certificate of convenience and necessity. The way the code reads currently without this amendment is that there's no opportunity for council to otherwise grant a probationary license or permit under the certificate procedure. So we have prepared for council an opportunity to have such a probationary certificate that would be utilized in very narrow circumstances, but would be available nonetheless if council deems it appropriate.
All right, and on this particular one, items 55A and B, would we vote on all these separately?
They can be voted on together as long as it's acknowledged that A and B have been approved first, and they were pre-existing the hearing on
So
C.
why don't we have a vote on 55A and B and then work on C?
That would be fine as well. Yes,
So
sir.
I'll move item 55A and B.
Thank you.
Any discussion? Anybody in the audience?
7 yes?
All right. Now let's move to C, which is the hearing on the application from MPI Limo Services LLC, Brady Johnson, Urbandale, Iowa, continued from April 7th council meeting. Any comments from anybody on the council? Mr. Johnson, did you want to make any comment?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, Dan Manning, 317 6th Avenue, Des Moines, Iowa, here tonight representing Brady Johnson and NPI Limousine Service. This matter was before you 2 weeks ago. We made a presentation. I think we'd stand by the presentation that we made 2 weeks ago, where we certainly would respectfully request that a certificate of public convenience and necessity be awarded to Mr. Johnson on behalf of NPI Limousine Service. We understand that that decision tonight might be impose a probationary period, which we certainly would accept. If you have any questions for me or Mr. Johnson, we're happy to address those.
All right, anybody have any questions? I'm sorry?
If I do.
All right. Thank you. You might, if something comes up, be available.
How long is the probational period for?
I'd recommend, can we do it for 6 months? Or you want the full year?
It's a full year.
Okay, okay,
Which is the ordinance we just passed.
Correct.
yeah.
I have a question. Jennifer Bohag, City Traffic Engineer. Councilman Moore?
Jennifer, on the last page of our blue letter, it says staff reviewed the application liability insurance certificate and determined that MPI Limo Service LLC does not clearly meet the requirements for providing limousine service. Has this changed?
That has not changed, but the ordinance that was just passed says that if a applicant does not clearly meet all the requirements for a particular reason, that a probationary certificate could be considered.
Okay, so you would be in support of this at this time?
Yes, I hold by staff's recommendation from 2 weeks ago, as far as our recommendation was for denial because they did not clearly meet all the requirements, but council does have the option to put them on probation under this new ordinance.
Thank you.
Based upon the discussion that was occurred at the council meeting 2 weeks ago, I'll go ahead and move item C, which is 55C, and that would be for the 1-year probation. But Mr. Johnson, I'm doing that because you have individuals that are really willing to vouch for you, and I'm confident that you'll not let them down. So it's my understanding also from the legal process that if there's any issue during the probation, they would automatically lose.
If there are any charges, any additional charges similar to the ones that are present or any other charges, it does not have to be a conviction. It would be automatically revoked at that point in time without additional notice or hearing.
Okay, thank you.
And your motion was for alternative 3 per the resolution, correct?
Yes, yes.
Thank you.
Seven yes?
All right. Just for clarification, you have been granted a 1-year probationary license, and good luck. And as Mrs. Hensley said, you get a lot of people counting on you. All right, let's note that at 5:13, we end the hearings. That moves us back to item 57, which is approving and authorizing the application for a Department of Transportation DOT Tiger discretionary grant for the Downtown Transportation Restoration Project, Council Communication Number 14-188.
Mayor,
Yes.
I don't know if we have a presentation, we've had workshops on it, but I'm in strong support of this. As everybody here at this table knows, but the public may not realize it, that over the last 5 or 6 years, the funding streams in Washington DC have changed. They no longer do earmarks or pork, that kind of stuff where they dictate by congressional action where money goes. They've created this big pot of money for special, unique projects called Tiger Funds. It's competitive against other communities around the country, and the metro area has been lucky to receive 2 of them, one for the Southeast Connector and one for the Dart Central Station. I would say neither one would have happened without the mayor's leadership and his connections to the Department of Transportation. He has really good relationships there and can get an audience to explain why these projects are really transformational for our town. So the MPO supported this just last week as a regional priority. They're going to make this one of the top things they talk about when they go to Washington, D.C. on the partnership trip. Earlier in the meeting, we voted for some of us to attend that trip. But this could be huge for downtown. And, as Mr. Clark said to me once when he was learning how dire this bridge and flood issues were in downtown, if we don't solve this right, this is like lights out. And he's right. We have to make sure that we're controlling the waters and making transportation accessible. So I'm strongly in support of it, and if there's not a presentation, I'll move it.
I agree, and I think that we're all going to have to do some heavy lifting to make sure that we get this passed. One comment, we've got in 2021, there's a longer period of time here. So does that mean that the fundraising that we're talking about for the Jackson Street Bridge, would they have the ability to do fundraising for an extended period of time, assuming that we get this?
Manager,
Not assuming, but when we get it.
Yeah, Mrs. Hensley, council members, Jeb can provide some commentary here. I think one of the implications of going for this grant now and expecting for DOT approval, that's the federal government, hopefully sometime this fall, is that it probably accelerates the timing on the need for those funding commitments for the Jackson Street Bridge. So I would say whatever we can do to push that process along should happen, but at the same time, because there's going to be a period of time before we actually start construction, that if we get commitments or indications that that kind of fundraising can occur after that date, that would be welcome as well. So I think there's 2 answers. One, I think we're going to have to make a decision. You're going to have to make a decision probably this fall about whether or not the Jackson Street Bridge is included. And then if all the funding is not there from the private sector, you'll probably then have to understand that there's going to be continued efforts past that point to get the dollars before you actually execute contracts.
So then to follow up on that, Rick, have we had this conversation with the steering committee, the group that's been spearheading the fundraising for the Jackson Street Bridge? Are they familiar with this and understand the timeline and what we're doing here?
We've begun that discussion, and as a matter of fact, have had discussion with them recently, but I think those efforts need to really step up right now.
Right, okay. Very good, thank you.
So we'll be able to prioritize which bridge that we use the fund, if we don't get all of the funding from the Tiger Grant. We'll be
Mr.
able
Gatto, I believe if the full funding, that we're asking for $22 million, Jeb, if the full funding is not granted, and sometimes that happens, you don't get everything you ask for, undoubtedly you'll be back here trying to figure out how you sort out the priorities. And so there will be an opportunity in this process to make decisions about how you would trim the cost on this project to make it affordable.
Thank you.
Mr. Coleman, your assistant is...
I was testing Dominic to see if he was going to remind me.
7 yes.
Dominic, you got to stay on top of this. This is... Okay, item 58 is authorizing the approval and execution of and delivery of the second amended restated agreement for the Des Moines Metropolitan Wastewater Reclamation Authority, consenting to and ratifying and confirming the issuance of bonds by the Board of the Des Moines Metropolitan Wastewater Reclamation Authority for the purpose of constructing improvements under the terms of the agreement and related matters. Council Communication number 14-187. Would you like to make a quick comment on that, Mr. Manager?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, council members. Yes, I would like to make just a couple comments. You had a workshop presentation on this, I think it was a couple weeks ago, so I'm not going to go through all those details again, although we are prepared here. The whole staff that worked on it is here tonight and can answer specific questions. But there are some general things I'd like to point out. This is a uniquely significant agreement. The first WR agreement was approved back in 2004, so this is an extension of that agreement that was approved back then. And I would say from my perspective, if you think about metropolitan agreements that we have as a city, this is certainly one of the ones that's been most successful. It's worked extraordinarily well. It's accomplished a lot in terms of really significant sewer improvements for our city and our metro area. And the folks that have worked on it should be really proud of that record of success. A couple of the things to say about this that are really interesting from my perspective. And the first one is that it is a metro agreement. So we have a governing board that's comprised of representatives from the member cities or sewer districts or counties. Des Moines is a member city. Just last week, that board approved this amendment. We have 3 representatives, Mayor, County, Mr. Moore, Larry Halls, all sit on that board and voted for it. I think it was unanimous approval of that board last week, so I'm happy for that. But once the board approves it, then it has to go back to each of the member cities. And so tonight is your opportunity as a city council to approve this amendment to the 2080 agreement. Two more things that are important here. One is the city of Des Moines, under this agreement, continues to be the operating entity. Now, what's good about that is even though you have a regional entity that is basically making the governing policy decisions for this agency, the actual staffing of it, if you will, is accomplished by contract with the city of Des Moines. Dave Miller, as you all know, Dave, raise your hand out there. Dave is the WRA director. Before him was Bill Stowe. But Dave and his colleagues have done just a marvelous job of managing this relationship with that board. But what's really good about this is you have the city of Des Moines, and we have a large sewer program to begin with just for our program, but allows these kinds of efficiencies to occur. Because we're the operating entity for the metro area, we can bring to bear all of our expertise and the things that we do as a large city to manage our sewer program. So you avoid some duplication in services by virtue of this arrangement. I had the good fortune of serving on the committee that worked on this 2080 agreement. My counterparts from other cities were on there as well. Just to give you a flavor, Jim Sanders, the city manager from Johnston, was the chair of that committee. Jody Smith represented West Des Moines. Don Sandor, the Pleasant Hill city manager, was on there. Paul Dre, who's represented the Urbandale Sewer District, was as well. There were some others I didn't mention, but you get the sense it was a pretty good representative group across the board. And I'd say we had really good luck in negotiating this particular agreement. And last thing I do want to say is my efforts in that regard were strongly supported by a great team of city staff people. So I'll start with Jeff Lester. Kathy Vanderpool and Glenna Frank from his staff were actually the major drafters, I think, of virtually every word that went into the agreement. So they did a great job. And then from city staff, you had, of course, Dave Miller, Pat Gazette's a public works director, Jeb Brewer, Scott Sanders, Larry Halls, whom I'm missing. I think I've got everybody. In any event, we had a great team of city folks that looked at every aspect of this. This is an enormous agreement with profound implications for the city. Sewers are not the kind of thing you see. You don't think about sewers in the same way you think about streets. But trust me, it's extremely important. The work that's been done is important. The work that has yet to be done is important. This agreement lays the foundation for it in what I think is a very efficient governmental arrangement. It's metro in nature. You get the efficiencies of that, but you also get the operating efficiencies by virtue of the fact that the city of Des Moines continues to be the operating agency for it. I think it's a real model of how you put together a regional sewer agency that balances interest and also creates efficiencies. So, as you can imagine, I do recommend it to you, but we'd be happy to answer questions that you might have.
Any questions? I'll quickly ask, does anybody in the audience have any questions? Seeing none, could we have a motion?
I'd like to make a statement. I
Sure.
In my discussion with city manager and that, you know, there's $675 million in bonds. The city is not responsible for this. It's the WRA who's responsible for their own bonding. So we don't have to be looking at what the city's responsible, because we're not, is my understanding. Is that right?
You know, besides everything that the city manager mentioned, this was a population-weighted vote at the WRA. That hasn't happened in my 4 years on the board. And it was a rather large meeting. All representatives were there, and I think some of us were holding our breath. And it was very pleasant that the vote was unanimous, 100%, that the city of Des Moines continue operating the WRA. And I think that's in testament to our staff and to our city manager. And I'd also like to say thank you to our representatives from West Des Moines. They spoke very highly of this agreement.
Excellent.
We have a motion? Who moved it?
If nobody else has,
I think Chris made it.
Yeah, I thought
No.
Christine. No? I move it.
Okay.
Okay. Sorry.
7 yes?
Item 59, a resolution of support endorsing the Des Moines Metropolitan Planning Organization MPO Tomorrow Plan. We've had numerous presentations over the last 2 or 3 years on the Tomorrow Plan, and it is moving forward as each city council is voting on it. And if there's anybody in the audience that has missed it, we would, and has a couple of comments they'd like to add to the discussion that's been taking place, we'd like to take those at this time. Seeing none, do we have a motion on the resolution of support?
Moved 59.
Seven yes?
Item 60 is applications from Clear Channel Outdoor, Inc. for relief from the moratorium for the following, which actually is granting the request on conversion credits for the removal of existing off-premises advertising signs to allow a credit to be earned for the removal of the sign at 1300 Keosauqua Way. That's exclusively what we're voting on,
A has
correct?
been withdrawn, yes, sir.
Okay. Is there anybody here to speak on that item? We're going to have to get you a parking pass. You're here pretty regularly.
Mr. Mayor and council members, good afternoon. My name is Jason Pomeranke. I'm with Clear Channel Outdoor. March 31st of this year, Clear Channel Outdoor applied for and received a demolition permit for go ahead and put this up, Diane. For a 672-foot single-face billboard at 1300 Keosauqua Way. We applied for this demo permit prior to any type of sign moratorium talk and prior to the moratorium vote, which happened at the last city council meeting. This demolition, which because it's a 672 square foot sign face, is worth 1 conversion credit point underneath the current or existing ordinance prior to the moratorium. Clear Channel Outdoor, we're respectively requesting the City Council to issue the conversion credit underneath the current ordinance that was issued prior to the moratorium.
And it's just my understanding that, it's not my understanding, the reason that you are requesting this is because of the construction of the Come and Go convenience store that's already gone through the process. So this is the only item that's holding up that project moving forward construction-wise, correct?
That I'm not aware of, if that is the case or not, but
is sitting right in the middle of
Yes, it
everything.
is, correct.
Okay.
This is holding it up.
Yeah,
The
this is
signs.
holding it up,
Yes.
yeah, okay.
Any other questions?
Any more questions?
I would be,
For the record, by the way, Jason, would you give us your address?
4131 109th Street, Urbandale.
All right. Is that your home or business?
That is business.
That's business?
I'd like to go ahead and move item 60B.
I support that. When we took the action, this is the very kind of hardship case that I could see myself voting for, and mention that, this project in particular.
7 yes?
All right. We have one extra item this evening. It's a request from Councilmember Hensley to speak regarding fees for Court Avenue taxi stand. Mrs. Hensley.
Thank you. It's been brought to my attention, and Councilmember Gray and I talked about this, and I indicated I'd put it on the council agenda for discussion. Also, I've had an exchange of emails with Jennifer Bohack regarding action that this council took when, those of you that have been on the council for a while will remember maybe some of those painful discussions we had about adding additional taxi cab service. And one of the concerns that came up were the issues in Court Avenue and how best to handle those issues with all of the different taxi cab companies in the community. The action that we took does not have any teeth in it from the aspect of the city's role and what we can play, but what has happened is you have the main taxi cab company, Trans-Iowa, which has been providing services in the community for decades. They have taken the lead in covering the additional cost of police service at the taxi cab stand. There was an understanding, as we had discussions at this council table, and we actually passed ordinances, that Trans-Iowa would take the lead, but that the other cab companies would provide financial support to help cover the cost of providing the officers at the taxi cab stand. Unfortunately, those other taxi cab companies have not followed through, and they're not making the payments timely, if they are even making them. They might be several months in arrears. There's one company that we have accounts receivable listing on that has not made payments since 2012. So what I would ask is that this council, knowing the discussion that occurred at this table, send a letter to those companies just indicating that that was the intent, that they really need to comply based upon the discussion that was held here, and see if we can't get some movement on that, because we've got a busy season coming up down the Court Avenue with the warm weather. It's critical that we have the level of police support that we have down there for the taxi cab stand, but everybody needs to be paying their fair share of providing that downtown. Bill?
Yeah, I just want to add one thing. That you hit just about all the high points there. Before Trans-Iowa brought on any police down there, the crowds got to be pretty unruly. Randy had told me that there were times they'd start pounding on the cabs, they'd kick on the doors, they'd pound on the windows. You know, it was a very scary situation. And so on normal days of operation, 2 police officers provide good service. When it gets to be special times like probably Drake Relays, St. Patrick's Day, they need 4 officers there. And they do a tremendous job of controlling the crowds, making sure everybody gets home safe, sane, and without any damage. So it just seems to me that although we have no teeth into this, it just seems some of the companies that can take advantage of the benefits that are being provided without having to pay for anything is pretty poor customer service. So I want to back Christine on that. I think if we can send a letter saying, look, you're getting all the benefits, yet you're not paying for any of the dues, I think that's a pretty important thing.
All right, so the motion, as I understand it, is to direct the city attorney to put together a letter that would direct the companies to comply with the agreement or ordinance that's in place
Correct.
in regarding payment.
And I guess I'd have, obviously it'd have to be drafted by legal, but have it come as action taken at this, and signed by the mayor and city council.
Do you want-
Because to be perfectly honest, if I knew back then what I know today about this, I would have never voted to approve the certificates of necessity. I mean, because there had been a lot of discussion, there were lots of issues, and we were trying to come to some resolution as to how to allow everybody to participate. And they are not living up to what they committed to us at, even though we don't have teeth in the ordinance. As Bill said, they're taking advantage of the system, and it's not fair to the one company that is shouldering all of the financial responsibility.
Mr. Manager?
Just a question for Mr. Gray or Ms. Hensley. Is your thought here that the in-state is one where they would work this out privately among themselves, or are you expecting the city to play a role of banker and collect the money and put it back to them?
That's not the way the current ordinance is written, from what I understand.
That's the way I understand it, too.
But what I would ask is that that they understand that it's been brought to our attention, and that the intent was that they participate in this financially. And I mean, that was discussed here at the council table.
So your idea is that they just need to work together to figure this out, rather than trying to filter the city into the middle of it?
Correct.
No. Rick, I think, like what Christine says, if it's come to our notice that it's not being done, work it out. We know what's going on.
Although I, for one, would hold open the possibility that it does involve the city, because we license each of these entities, and when they were here before us, we asked them point blank if they would participate in things like this on Court Avenue and the airport, and the agreement was that they would do that. And I think if they're in violation of the commitment they made, that ought to be considered by the council as we, determine who gets those licenses in town. So to me, eventually, it is a matter before the city council, and we ought to give them warning and encourage them to work it out amongst themselves, because it'll be better for them between each other than if the city gets involved.
And once we get this resolved, then we're going to go to the airport issue, because we've got a similar issue at the airport where they're not paying the $2 fee. They drive away and say, let the guy behind me, which happens to be, so you know what? This is just the beginning, so they better figure out and get it corrected, because there are some issues out there, and they can't just be walking away from it and taking advantage of this when everybody else is trying to play by the rules.
There's another issue at the airport, too, and several times while I'm waiting for somebody's flight to come in, I've stood there and watched, and there's one or two cab companies that pull up out there. They don't drop anybody off, and they get in line, and they claim before they weren't doing that. They're just running the airport is all they're doing. And I think ethically, that's not what they agreed to do.
Okay, so...
I've heard that too, that we call that the cherry picking.
Yeah.
The rest of the cabs have to provide service to our inner city neighborhoods, and if they choose not to, then they're a violation, in my view, of their license, so.
Well, I think they're charging the customer on Court Avenue and collecting the additional $2 that they're supposed to be paying for this fee. So they're actually collecting an additional fee and not paying their bills, is the way that I understand it. So,
Yep, you're right.
Yeah, that's right.
so I mean, I think there should be a time frame put on this that they need to be in compliance, or we need to take additional actions towards them.
Well, and who keeps track of it?
Well, Trans Iowa is the one that keeps track of it. I mean, they've got the receivable listing as to who owes what and how
So they
far-
have a listing of how many cabs showed up down there and how many picked up people and
My
and what they
I think
should
it's a
owe.
flat rate of what they owe, $50 a month, and they haven't paid since 2012, is my
And it's based on the number of cabs that they provide down
Yeah.
there, so.
That would be my hope. That
And I think at the
Trans Iowa would do
airport,
it.
they
That is
pay
it.
per trip.
Yeah,
It's a
correct.
different deal.
Yep.
Okay, well, let's try to
So we
sort it out.
have, I think we're all in agreement.
Is there a time limit on when they can be in full compliance of it, or are we just gonna?
I guess what I'd like to do is to have work with Jennifer Bohack and the appropriate companies, and have you come back in the next couple of months as to what, or maybe in the next 30 days as to status and what their plan is as to how it's going forward.
And also, I wouldn't mind knowing when their licenses are going to come up for renewal. Is this a 1 year, 5 year? How long of a time frame is it? And when will they become up again? If we could find that out, I'd like to know that as well.
Seven yes.
We have one more action this evening. Could we have a motion to adjourn, please?
Move.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Said adjourned. Thank you all for attending.